Hello everybody, I'm Shane.
And I'm Ken.
And welcome to episode 2 of GemTalk.
Alright, so this week we have Same Old World. Funny, because I thought the next episode was going to be Barn Mates, but...
Yeah, judging by the teasers that they've released, that's what I thought as well.
Well, it looks like we're going to have to wait at least one more week to see Peridot trying to give Lapis a present.
Yeah, but I want 2 episodes every week.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. But
11 minutes of Steven isn't enough.
Right, well, after months of hiatus, I think we can take what we get.
Yes, knowing that there's going to be an episode at all next week gives me hope.
Right, so what were your overall impressions of this particular episode?
Well, I thought it was a very cute episode. I think that's honestly the word that I could use to describe it. It's a very character-centric episode, obviously. If for some reason you couldn't tell, the episode obviously had a lot to do with Lapis Lazuli, who's a character we haven't seen much of.
Yes, Lapis is a character who seems to turn up whenever we need a catalyst. Whenever we need something that's going to drive the story forward. In fact, Steven even makes a remark to that effect.
Yeah, 'cause she was in Mirror Gem, where she was basically the main antagonist, and then when the Homeworld gems come, she's there. So yeah, pretty much only shows up at important plot points.
And as I mentioned before, Lapis is a rogue character because she's been a villain, she's been an assistant, you're not quite sure, and then, at the moment where she fuses with Jasper, there's a moment where you're like, oh man, she's gonna fuse and this huge monster and everyone's gonna die or something. She double-crossed him.
Yeah.
So
as soon as I saw Lapis agree to fuse with Jasper, I knew what she was doing. I didn't think that she was going to come back, but I knew at least that she was effectively sacrificing herself, which at the time was the attribute that I had associated to Lapis very, very strongly. My opinions on her were that she felt so guilty that she wanted to be able to do something for Steven and for Earth in general, and so she sacrificed herself as sort of atonement.
Yeah. She always, with the exception of the moment where she fused with Jasper, she always seems to approach things from a position of weakness.
Yeah.
She's the victim. She's the one who has no choice, that she has to do what she has to do, even though she might not like it.
Mm-hmm. Which kind of brings up a question. What do you think is Lapis's role in general? Like in the Homeworld society, everybody seems to have a job.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And a point I wanted to bring up is when she starts going to her backstory. Of course, I get very excited because we're going to get some exposition about a character's backstory. And while we do get some backstory, it starts with I was on Earth because I was sent here to look around, or I wasn't expected to be here very long.
Yeah, she says I wasn't supposed to be here very long. I think that's the exact line. But she doesn't say why she was there.
Exactly. So even though we're getting story backfiller, there's even more story because she's not telling us why she was there.
Yeah. The only other, and I think it's pretty interesting, the other story of a gem who was only supposed to be on Earth for a short time, and that ended up changing, was Sapphire, who is also a blue gem.
Right.
So I think blue gems just have a habit of getting stuck on the blue planet.
Well, I know we've had this concept that blue-colored gems are the mind, the intelligence, whether it's she could have been there for intelligence gathering. She could have been effectively a spy.
Yeah.
And she was put there for that purpose. Sapphire is an advisor because of her future visions. She can tell Blue Diamond what's going on. Blue Diamond, as powerful as she is, she seems to have a somewhat softer demeanor. Somewhat.
I mean, she did threaten to break
Ruby.
Oh,
sure, because that goes against their entire society. But compared with Yellow Diamond, who was just aggressive from the outset.
Actually, she wasn't. She was, I think, sitting in that chair, kind of just doing her job, assuming that Peridot was gonna do whatever she said, and really only became aggressive when Peridot started showing signs of rebellion.
Right. You got me there. Anyway.
Yes!
But the overall headcanon that I have going on is that each color of Gem, of the 4 original colors, the white, the pink, the blue, and the yellow, they all serve different roles within Gem society.
Yeah.
Of course, what that means now that all the symbology has the pink part removed, what that means, well, we'll find out. That's one of the big questions of the series.
And in terms of Lapis being a spy, I mean, she can fly, which is interesting because I don't think there have been any other gems that can just fly.
Yeah, she doesn't have like a physical weapon. It's not like she has like a bow or sword or anything like that. She can fly and she can manipulate water.
Yeah.
And in fact, her wings are just made of water.
And the fact that a water-based creature has the capability of flying is still strange to me.
Yeah, and I really hesitate to make this illusion, but the only other place in like fantasy lore where water and flying are often brought together is honestly in magic.
Yeah.
And in blue.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's true.
It's water and things that fly. And it's also about the mind. And so it's kind of strange. Of course, magic's a 5-color system. Here we have a 4 or 3 color system. So whatever, take from that what you will, but there seems to be a lot of parallels here.
Wait, you mean the people that make a ton of allusions in their TV show to games may have made an allusion to a game in their TV show? Get your chocolate out of my peanut butter!
Anyway, I'll talk about the episode itself. We start off with Peridot telling the story of how they defeated the cluster.
My beautiful little slice of angry pie. Such a perfect, just wonderful cinnamon roll.
And it's all about her.
No, she has the one line about Steven.
Oh, my feelings! No, it's interesting because it's almost like the self-centered, more, I guess you could say, villainous side comes out more naturally.
Well, I think...
So that's how she is initially, but then she stops when it comes down to the point where the cluster got bubbled, and maybe she doesn't understand exactly why that happened. So that's why she turned to Steven and is like, well, you tell us how this happened. Of course, he's distracted.
But with Peridot, since she is a utilitarian gem, she works, she does mechanical things. She's probably not used to adventure. It's probably the equivalent of, sitting at your desk doing your day job all day, and then suddenly somebody puts, like, a sword in your hand and says, hey, go fight those guys. And if you manage to survive it, which in their case they did, yeah, it's gonna seem like so much overwhelming stimulus to compare to what your life used to be.
Right, so it's like experiencing anything for like the first time. It's like that magical first time,
Yeah.
And she was very excited about that. Yeah, I can understand that. I also wanted to note that this episode, being that it's the episode that immediately follows an action-heavy episode, or at least emotionally heavy episode, you would expect it to lower the tone.
Yeah.
That it wasn't going to be as intense, as action-oriented or whatever. So the fact that we got something that was mostly exposition was definitely in the norm. It's called pacing.
Yes.
Yes, right?
One of the other things that I really liked, I think there's kind of this accepted theory, mostly proven through Garnet, that fusions are comparative to a relationship.
Oh, definitely.
And I think that they were pretty spot on with the result of Lapis Lazuli's experience of being in a negative fusion for so long, being comparable to like being in a negative relationship for a really long time.
But it's funny you bring that up because I wanted to point out that whenever you need to explain to Steven, and by extension the audience, anything having to do with fusion, there's Garnet. From the episode Alone Together with Stevani, when she is like, you are an experience, be the best experience you can be. And that was before we even knew she was a fusion canonically. Yeah. So
before the show said she was a fusion.
She's always the one that's there. Yeah, fusion seems difficult. Not for me. All these clues and, as
the overwhelmingly, like, joyous face she has when she first sets eyes, all three of them, on Stevani.
Yeah. And that moment when, because for me, I was surprised. At the time, I didn't get into a lot of fan theory, so I didn't know that there was a strong Garnets of Fusion theory running around.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got up to Jailbreak and I saw that, I was just like, what? You know? And then I looked through the episodes and I was like, look at all these clues.
Yeah.
Going all the way back to, again, the first episode when they showed you that she not only has 2 gems, one on each hand, but they're different cuts.
Yeah. Mm.
It's like, why didn't I see it? You know?
Yeah. So when Steven opens up the barn door to find Lapis, first of all, Lion's disappeared again.
Yeah, Lion's been lurking in the background of a lot of these episodes recently, and the last time he had any active role was when they went to the moon.
Yeah.
Since then, he's just there. They're kind of in the background, like, we haven't forgotten about this character. He's still there.
He has his own mini episode where he tries to fit into boxes.
Oh, right. I love that so much. Anyway, so, yeah, just before Steven goes to open the barn door, there's what sounds like a lion roaring.
Yeah.
Now, at first I kind of wrote that off as the sound of somebody opening a barn door, like the other barn door, because she was getting ready to leave, and then I realized, no, that big hole's already there.
Peridot made a door.
Peridot even pointed it out. So, no. It's almost like, did something happen in there? I'm not sure, but all of a sudden, Lion's gone.
Yeah, I didn't know. At first, I thought it was the sound of her maybe getting up, like it was some sort of shuffling sound, but when we went back and listened to it again, yeah, it definitely sounds like it's some sort of bestial noise.
Yeah, and now my mind is going to some future episode where they do a flashback to this point, and it's before Steven opens the door, and Lion does something, or even says something, that, you know, it convinces her that she has to leave or whatever. Part of me would just be really excited to find out that Lion's been, like, pulling the strings the whole time.
For those of you out there who may not know, Ken's
a big fan.
Yeah, Ken really likes the character of Lion. So he's always happy whenever Lion shows up and plays a part.
Another thing this episode does is it really contrasts the characters of Peridot and Lapis. I think they're both coming in as outsiders, as effectively Homeworld gems. You can definitely feel that there's a pull that will cause them to eventually join the group, that of course being Steven.
Yeah.
But Peridot avoids joining the group because she doesn't believe in what they're doing. She thinks they're all traitors. They're the bad guy, the enemy. And the only reason she even associated with them was to deal with the cluster.
Yeah.
And through her association, she becomes one of them because she starts to understand them.
Yeah.
Now, Lapis is not overtly aggressive. She doesn't like the crystal gems, but she's not overtly aggressive to them.
I mean, she has summoned an entire army of them.
Okay. I think that moment in that episode, looking back on it at least, that sounds like, you know, a cornered creature. She's trying to get home. She sucks up the entire ocean because she just wants to get home. They're harassing her, so she's trying to beat them off.
Yeah, that's fair. But it doesn't mean that she's incapable of aggressive tendencies.
Well, yeah. And I think I mentioned in the previous episode, neither is Steven, even though he's all love and peace and everything most of the time. I mean, he'll still stand up and be aggressive when he needs to be.
There's also another interesting line that Lapis says when when Steven's first talking to her, and it's that she never belonged with the crystal gems.
Yeah. I caught that too. It almost made me think that maybe there was another point where she could have chosen to join them and decided not to. But that was before I knew we were going to get any more backstory to her.
Yeah. I just thought that there were a lot of sound bits of Lapis's that really struck me as being sort of dodgy, kind of alluding to things that maybe weren't completely explained. For example, she says, I forget what Steven says, something along the lines of, we only get to see each other when things are bad, or something like that. And she says, that's how it always is with me.
Yes.
Almost as if she feels as if she's some sort of harbinger.
Harbinger of destruction.
Which kind of ties back to my opinion that she feels like she has to atone, like she has this weight of guilting that she carries around with her.
Yeah, and I know before her backstory about how she got into that mirror was explained in this episode. Before then, we had talked a lot about how maybe she was being aggressive, and then they managed to poof her and put her in the mirror to stop her from reforming. Now, It's funny because what actually was described wasn't too far off. She got poofed, I'm assuming from Homeworld gems, because she was just in the middle of the melee of this war. And then she got put into a mirror by Homeworld gems, thinking she was a crystal gem, and that maybe the mirror is effectively like an interrogation chamber or something.
Maybe.
Because she said they kept asking her, where's your base? Who's your leader? All this kind of stuff, what you expect in an interrogation chamber.
Yeah.
But since she was affixed to the mirror, she couldn't reform because, as we surmised, all the energy that would have gone into having her reform actually powered the mirror.
Yeah, one of my personal theories is that gems generate a certain level of energy just by existing, and that energy is used from everything from forming a body to creating their weapon to just living, but that energy can be subverted by affixing them to some other object that siphons that energy. One of my other examples is when they go to the temple in Sirius Stephen, and the gem that's at the center of that temple, which I personally believe is still the white diamond gem, when they pull it out, the temple goes crazy. And I believe that the gem was stuck there in order to subvert its power. So it's not as if they haven't had gems powering or in some way being a portion of something in the past.
I also noted in Friendship that a lot of the gears and everything else had crystals at least.
Yeah.
That were all rose-colored crystals. And, we get a chance to talk about that episode later. I'm sure that'll come up. But, yeah, gems have definitely powered other devices
or
in
have
the
been
past.
trapped in other devices, yeah.
So the mirror was using up her energy to power itself. And apparently she still had enough power to make the mirror work when her gem got cracked. Which apparently was an accident.
Yeah, well, cracking the gem doesn't necessarily destroy its abilities. I mean, for example, when Amethyst exacerbated her crack. Anyway, when Amethyst's gem gets cracked, she can still talk, although it's garbled. She can still move, although her limbs are gangly, but she's still alive. So it's not as if cracking the gem causes them to poof specifically, it just affects them negatively.
Yeah, and Steven did pull her gem from the mirror when it was still cracked, and she formed, and I always thought that because she had the mirror eyes, that was kind of like the deformity she had because she was cracked, but when she was showing him her backstory at the Galaxy Warp, she had the mirror eyes again.
Yeah, I just think that when they're cracked, their powers act up. For Lapis, it was the eyes. For Amethyst, it was her token shapeshifting. Everything just sort of goes haywire when their gem is in perfect condition.
Yeah. She was trapped in that mirror by Homeworld gems.
She was trapped in a mirror and it couldn't be clearer.
No. So in Mirror Gem, Ocean Gem, the dialogue from Lapis led you to believe that somehow the crystal gems had trapped her in that mirror.
Yeah.
But now I think that their big crime was that when Pearl discovered the mirror, she knew darn well
that there was
a gem there, and she just left it like that.
Yeah.
My only defense for Pearl in that is that Pearl assumed she was another Homeworld gem and didn't want a Homeworld gem, an anti-crystal gem, running amok and causing havoc, like Peridot was initially.
I'm sure that the crystal gems know full well that Homeworld was going to come back for them at some point, and even the prospect of having a Homeworld gem potentially escape or overpower them or run away and tell Homeworld exactly where they were was probably pure anathema. And so instead of even risking it, they just kept her there as a prisoner.
Then why did Pearl give the mirror to Steven if there was a chance that Lapis could be released from it, unless Pearl believed that the gem was so cracked that there was hardly a consciousness left?
That, or she just didn't believe that Steven's powers were strong enough yet to do anything about it. I mean, they've underestimated Steven on several occasions, and this may have just been one where Pearl was like, oh, here you go. Then he's not going to be able to do anything with this. And then he just tears the thing right out of it.
Right. And she tells him to do that. She shows him that that's how he can help the mirror or the thing trapped in the mirror. But I'm just reminded of the shock and horror on their faces when he tells them that, oh, this thing is sentient.
Yeah.
Oh, no. You have to give it back to us. The thing is dangerous and all that, So a lot of this stuff starts to make a lot more sense. Not that it didn't make sense before, but now it makes even more sense now that we have some perspective. Back in the story, Peridot, apparently they're going back to Beach City, back to the temple. Peridot chooses to stay at the barn.
Yes.
Now, it doesn't sound like she's doing this because she doesn't feel like she belongs in the same place with them. She kind of likes the barn. She wants to fix up the big hole in the barn.
And I'm putting money on it now. They're going to go back to that barn at some point, and it's going to be a workshop. Like a massive, 6-story, just enormous compared to the small wooden barn it was at one point.
Oh, man. I can just imagine if this does happen in the future where the crystal gems try to actually go to Homeworld or something like that they leave from there. Because that was where they started Universal Space Agency.
Yeah.
Okay. In fact, if you notice in the background, it always says you space travel
not
in the back.
letting you forget that.
Yeah. And of course, with Peridot's knowledge and Pearl's knowledge, they could do it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Pearl almost did it herself.
Right.
She built a rocket ship that almost left Earth's atmosphere just by her lonesome. And they both made those very crazy robots.
Yeah, the Rock'em Sock'em robots.
Yes. So by combining their capabilities, I'm sure that would be possible.
Yeah. It's also an interesting measure of trust. After keeping a close eye on Peridot and telling Steven not to let Peridot out of his sight and all this stuff, and now they've defeated the cluster, so the original reason for them even teaming up has passed.
Yeah. And
they're going to leave her at the barn, and they're just going to leave her to her own devices, and nobody seems to be worried about it at all.
I'm sure they're going to keep checking up on her. I'm sure they're going to stop in occasionally for a cup of sugar, and please don't tell Yellow Diamond where we are.
Yeah, I think they know that because Yellow Diamond knows that she's rebelled, all that doesn't matter. Because I think even if she were to call Yellow Diamond back somehow and, grovel on the floor, it's not going to matter.
Also, in the way that Homeworld gems always seem to allude that the crystal gems aren't always on the up and up, they're a little shadier than they seem at face value, maybe they're letting Peridot stay at the barn specifically so she's not at the temple. Because if Yellow Diamond does come looking for Peridot, she's not going to find the temple, at least not at first.
Yeah, that's a fair point. She do a lot less damage at the barn.
But we have already seen that another Red Eye does come hunting for Lapis and Peridot.
Oh, we have?
Yeah, in the teaser for Barnmates, the object that's attacking them while they're in the barn is a Red Eye.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll have to look at that teaser again, because all I can remember is the whole giving her a little present thing, which I thought was so cute.
Speaking of which, still adding more fodder to my theory that Peridot and Lapis are going to be the first two to fuse, the first new fusion we're going to get to see. Also explaining what Barnmates probably means. And if I were to flex my theory muscles a bit, I think that episode is going to end with either them fusing or them alluding to the fact that fusion is going to happen between the two of them.
Right. And if I could take a slightly less fantastical view...
Ow!
It could also mean that they're just going to live at the barn together.
Yeah.
Like roommates.
Well, yes. I mean, that's the intention, I'm sure, as they sort of alluded to at the end of this episode. But I think that, they're getting closer. They're living together. If fusion is supposed to be the representation of a relationship, there's that. They've already spent time together. They both hate Jasper.
Reasons why you guys should be cool with each other.
It could be one of Peridot's charts.
Yeah, they still got the chalkboard, I also realized that with the crystal gems going back to Beach City and Steven sticking around for a little bit at least, it kind of gets the three primary crystal gems out of the picture, so that we can focus on Peridot and Lapis and Steven, because we see the whole story from Steven's point of view, so if he's not there, we ain't seeing what's going on.
Yeah.
And now that there are potentially 6 main characters running around, it can get a little difficult, especially with 11 minutes, to give them all screen time.
Everyone, yeah.
I mean, for instance, Amethyst hasn't really seen much focus since Too Far.
Yeah. Well, she's part of Alexandrite.
Well, yes. I mean, she was shapeshifting as Lion. She had a couple of little one-liners in the last episode, I think.
Yeah, I think she says, she calls Steven a watermelon head or a melon head, which is an allusion also back to the previous Watermelon Steven episode.
Yeah, and as you get more and more characters involved, then, it's harder and harder to give them all
spread
screen
a little
time.
more thin.
Yeah. So, obviously, this particular episode focuses a lot on Lapis, and the next episode is likely going to focus on Lapis and Peridot together. You know what? I'll be really happy if that happens, but I know that Peridot is probably curious about fusion since she attempted to fuse.
Yeah, we already know that she is curious about it.
And Lapis now has been part of a cross-gem fusion, but that wasn't necessarily a positive experience for her. So I don't know how quick she would be willing to jump into another relationship so soon, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I do think that with Peridot, I feel they're building up to it. With Peridot being so interested in fusion, and with Lapis having already been a fusion, it almost seems like the two of them have like the perfect ingredients to make a fusion pie.
Yeah, which makes me wonder, since Garnet herself was the first cross-gem fusion, and Pearl and Rose knew nothing about it, there was probably a similar period of them getting comfortable with it, too, like going into the past. There was a period of time where Rose and Pearl had to become comfortable with the idea of fusion before they could become, Rainbow Quartz.
I'm sure Pearl's already perfectly comfortable with it.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
But yes, that is an interesting fact. It sort of fills in a little bit of background information. You can just imagine there's the scene where Rose is explaining to Garnet that, she is the answer, or that love is the answer, never to question it. And then the very next line is, but you gotta tell me how you did that.
Yeah. And another thing I'd be really curious to see is if we're ever going to see fusions of Ruby or Sapphire with other gems.
Separately from Garnet.
Separately.
I don't think so. I think that's a little too far-reaching, because the character of Garnet is obviously supposed to be more important than the characters of either Ruby or Sapphire.
Yeah.
So there's sort of a gestalt in that way, that they're more interesting or more united as a single character than they would be separately with someone else.
Right. Although it'd be kind of funny to have them separated, and somehow they're physically separated because of reasons, and like, say, Ruby has to fuse with, Amethyst, and Sapphire has to fuse with Pearl.
Oh my god.
And they're probably the most compatible with each other. But then if the two of them get together and fuse, with Alexandrite again.
Yeah. The only problem is that just I think the worst fusion, and worse being the least stable fusion that's existed shy of Malachite, is Sugilite.
Sugilite, yes.
And Sugilite was Ruby, Sapphire, and Amethyst. Now imagine taking out Sapphire from that equation.
Yeah. In fact, if I had, knowing what we know now, Sapphire didn't have much of a sway in that combination. Probably because Ruby and Amethyst are both such Type A personalities.
Yeah.
That the two Type A's outweigh the one Type B, so you don't get much there. In a somewhat similar fashion, well, I don't know, because Sardonyx was definitely a lot more Type A. I would probably put Pearl in the passive-aggressive category. It depends on the situation. Let's continue to psychoanalyze the crystal gems. Is leaving Peridot behind at the barn without, quote, supervision, a measure of trust or a measure of distrust, as you had pointed out. And again, we both saw the same thing. We both came up with somewhat opposite opinions of it, which is interesting. Another thing that the two of them, Lapis and Peridot, have in common is the fact that they are now effectively both homeless.
Yeah.
The difference being that when Peridot became homeless because she was renounced by Yellow Diamond, she just jumped right into the crystal gems. With Lapis, it's like, well, I wasn't happy here. I went to Homeworld. I wasn't happy there, so I can't be happy anywhere.
Well, I mean, Lapis, true, was not happy about how Homeworld had changed, but she was dragged back to Earth. She probably would have stayed at Homeworld given the chance, given the opportunity. She probably would have just tried to recoup some sort of normal living, but she was dragged back to Earth as an informant for Homeworld.
Yeah, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if the story of Lapis going back to Homeworld after Mirror Gem is she goes back and in her true Homeworld Gem way probably reports directly to, I'm going to assume, Blue Diamond. Mm-hmm. And Blue Diamond will be like, wait a minute, you're the Lapis I sent to Earth and disappeared during the war. You've been on Earth. What is going on over there? Tell me everything.
Yeah.
You know? And Lapis, perhaps in her way, seeing that Blue Diamond and the rest of her troops or what have you are so much more powerful than she is, she just caved.
Yeah.
She was just like, this is what happened. I had to. But then she has that moment of conscience and she starts sending the message back towards Earth, and that's how they even know it happened.
It's also possible that she went back to Homeworld and got stuck in another mirror or something. And she said that pretty much the only reason why she didn't answer the questions when they were first posed to her, when she was first put into a mirror, is because she legitimately did not know the answers to them. But these would be questions that she would know the answer to.
Right, so she's a strange character because sometimes she feels like she doesn't have any will. Like she has very low will. But then at other times she acts rather willful. I mean, it takes an incredible amount of will to hold Malachite at bay that whole time.
Yeah.
So she's such an interesting character because she's hard to pin down.
It's a real testament to the power of just psychology in general, because she has a lot, like you said, of willpower. She has a lot of capabilities, but she's always being trapped. She's always being forced to do something. She's always being held down or pulled in one way or the other. So she almost never has the opportunity to express her own capabilities. And when she finally chooses to break free from her, captors and do something for herself or for her own reasons, she keeps a massive monster chained to the bottom of the ocean for what's probably like half a year.
Yeah. Which reminds me, aside from the fact that there was one episode that took place near New Year's, there was another episode that took place obviously in the winter because it was snowing.
Yeah.
And all that stuff like that. They're kind of like loosey-goosey with the seasons and the times and stuff like that.
Except for now.
It's now they say it's fall.
Yeah.
Okay. Autumn. And it's like, all right. Of course, I haven't gone back through the shows and like pinned down the ones that gave us at least a time of year and to see if there's some kind of a smooth arc in there, but it's probably not that important.
Not worth it, yeah.
But since they are effectively in Delaware, you get all 4 seasons, even though it's near a beach.
Yeah, and I still think it's funny that just seeing a character react to things that people take for granted, like trees, and Lapis is like, wait, leaves? What are they? Wait, why would I want to get in touch with nature? I don't understand any of this.
Yeah. And Steven, in his naive, cute way, is just like, and you can live with the squirrels and have pets of squirrels and eat acorn pie. Okay, Steven.
And it just makes me even more want to know what Homeworld looks like. Now, I know we've seen on a macro scale images of what they were going to turn Earth into, and you can sort of assume that it's probably similar to what Homeworld looks like.
Yeah, like some hollowed out geodesic sphere.
Yeah, but I really want to know on a more microscopic scale, like down in their cities or in their towers or in their streets or whatever, because they're just gaping holes that fall into the center of the Earth from the diagram that was shown on the moon base. Mm-hmm. So do they just live like that?
Yeah, I don't know. The best clue, of course, is fully gem built structures like the Lunar Sea Spire or the Galaxy Warp, even the moon base. Those are all obviously completely built by gems, especially the moon base, because it would not have deteriorated or anything over the centuries. So I would imagine that Homeworld's buildings and architecture would be similar.
Yeah,
in appearance.
and I can understand that, like, on an individual building basis, but I'm thinking more along the lines of, like, what the planet itself kind of looks like if you were to stand in the middle of a city or something.
Right, right. I imagine it to be a rather dark sort of place. It makes me feel like it would be, like, nighttime all the time. Like, the sphere doesn't even really need a sun.
Yeah.
You know, they could be floating through space like a rogue planet. What I thought was interesting was that since it is like a hollowed out sphere, there could be buildings on the backside of it too.
Oh yeah, like pointing inward.
Yeah. So we get a geography tour.
Oh my god.
Of the tri-state area,
Yeah.
as he puts it. Very, very interesting. I mean, we're in Beach City, which they don't give a name of the state that they're in. It's
heavily
Delaware.
implied that it's Delaware.
Then they go to what is Pennsylvania, what they call the state of Keystone.
State. Yeah.
And I thought, okay, so they're going to take the state nicknames, because Pennsylvania is the Keystone State, right? And that's what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. Well, New Jersey's the Garden State.
Yeah, didn't look
and they didn't call the state Garden, did
no.
they?
It's just the massive turnpike in the
Oh
image.
my goodness.
And the shoe getting hurled at them.
Yeah.
But
that is the common public perception. I'll definitely say that North Jersey, near New York, or Empire City as I should put it, yeah, it is a lot like that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, there's definitely a lot of New Jersey that's country. You know, and the shore area and all that type of stuff. And
yeah, we have beaches too, Delaware.
Oh, it's funny though, a lot of the other beaches that he named to Lapis are slightly off versions of other beaches that do exist in Delaware, Maryland, and Jersey. Like there's there might be a Surf City, although that could be an allusion to the Beach Boys song.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is kind of interesting. They're trying to widen the world just slightly, and it's not a humongous mystery where in this alternate Earth they are. Mm-hmm. But the little fly around tour, the one thing that kept coming to mind during that whole fly around tour was the scene in the old Superman movie when Superman takes Lois Lane around. He flies her around. Like, she can't fly, but he can, and he carries her all over the place, and they have a nice little tour. I keep thinking about that. It's just funny to watch them come up with alternate names, and it's like, we're not going to use the actual name, but you know what we mean.
Yeah.
One of the buildings in Empire City, like the Eiffel Tower?
Oh,
didn't it look like the Eiffel
maybe.
Tower?
I'd have to go back and look at it. I do remember thinking that when I saw them flying, the first spot I thought they went to was Paris. And I was like, oh, what is going on here? Oh, no, wait, it's New York. So maybe.
Yeah. Oh, and that thing about the rest stops, it's kind of true. I don't know about the sushi part, but they definitely have improved them. But anyway, the point was, and the title of the episode is Same Old World. So here comes Lapis. Now she's finally free, thousands of years after she originally arrived. And she's basically thinking, this is the same planet I was in before.
Yeah.
And Steven's point was, no, it's changed a lot since you were last here.
Yeah, so that's the interesting thing about the title. It can mean two different things. Either this is the same old world that I was trapped on and it's terrible and nothing about it has changed. Or the phrase same old blank can also have a positive connotation because it kind of gives you the idea of something that's comforting.
Yeah, a nostalgia effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something else occurred to me. Again, with the whole flying around and taking a little bit of a tour thing. Same old world could be like an inversion of the phrase whole new world.
Yeah, possibly.
You know, Steven's having her fly around to show her how many different places there are and all that kind of stuff. So
potential Aladdin reference.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And the phrase "whole new world" was used in the fight with Malachite and Alexandrite.
Yeah, so they just keep hammering that reference.
Yeah. Although they meant that in terms of like whole new world of possibilities.
Well, yeah, but the phrase, you can't say something like that. Anybody that's, you know, even the slightest bit of a Disney fan will immediately trigger that phrase.
Right. So the Galaxy Warp.
Yes, very interesting things about the Galaxy Warp. First of all, something that I noticed was that Lapis says that the Galaxy Warp is where she was abandoned. And if we think back to when Pearl first gives Steven the mirror, or first indicates the mirror exists, she asks it to show the galaxy warp. And when it refuses, she says, I know you've seen it, or I know you've been there. And then we see Pearl pick the mirror up at the galaxy warp.
Right. And also of note is that the outfit Pearl's wearing in that scene is the same one I think she was wearing when, like, Greg first met them in Story for Steven.
Yeah.
So does that mean it was around that time that they found it?
Well, that's the thing.
Or,
Gems can live for an extremely long time, and they keep their form for extremely long times, too.
And they only seem to change their outfit when they poof.
Yeah.
Now, I don't remember if that particular outfit was the same one Pearl was wearing back in The Answer, which was a lot earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have to say not, because in Sworn to the Sword, we have that image of Pearl constantly jumping in front of things and getting poofed over and over and over again. So the idea that she would have the same outfit on, if they change it every single time.
Well, they don't. It's not obligatory. Because remember, Amethyst comes back several times. Though her shape is slightly different, the general appearance is the same.
Right. She fixed that shoulder strap.
Well, no, I mean, she comes back several times during the episode. And every time she changes some physical part of her body, yes, but you can see that the general idea of what she's supposed to look like is retained.
Right, and Pearl's current outfit compared to her older outfit is not that different.
Yeah.
It's still Pearl. You can still tell it's Pearl, just like if somebody puts on a different colored shirt, you can still tell it's them.
Yeah. I think the character, honestly, who's made the most drastic change, if we're not including things like further back in time...
or Steven.
or Steven, is Garnet.
Yeah.
Because though, again, you can still identify it as her, there are a lot of differences in her outfit. There's definitely more highlighting of the blues and reds. Her features become somewhat softer. The hair is, like, rounded at the edges now.
Are you comparing to before Jailbreak to after Jailbreak Garnet?
Yes.
Okay.
No, not Cotton Candy Garnet.
Yeah, because, I mean, that was completely different. Obviously, they have poofed and reformed several times since then.
Yeah.
But as that was the first time a fusion had happened, they weren't even sure what was going on, so you have this incomplete amalgamation.
Yeah.
I think the scene of Pearl finding the mirror, it cements everything Pearl said in Mirror Gem about how they found the mirror.
Yeah.
The whole thing about the galaxy warp, you've seen it before.
Yeah.
And it also attempts to kind of pinpoint a timeline, because the way Pearl looked when Greg first ran into them and the way Pearl looked at the beginning of the series is different. So she changed outfits there, and then she changed her outfit again after she got poofed in the Steven Sword Fighter, right?
Yeah.
And wasn't the pilot form one of the ones that you see when she's forming?
Yes. Gems have this capability, actually, I don't know if it's a capability or a necessity, where when they are reforming, they cycle through their previous forms. So if you were to go frame by frame by frame, you can see the various forms that they've taken in the past. Amethyst does it when she fixes her shoulder strap. Pearl does it when she takes on her most recent form. It's most notable with Pearl, honestly, because they do go all the way back to her pilot appearance, which, if you haven't seen it, is notably different from how she looks now. But I don't know if that's a necessity. I don't know if that's something they have to go through or something that just sort of happens. But another interesting thing to note is that when Steven pops the Centibeetle out and it becomes the mini Centibeetle, when the creature tries to first take form, it does go through a sort of like...
a humanoid phase.
Yeah. And then becomes the monster. Also, we never see Peridot reform. Fun fact. When she gets popped out of her bubble, she is off screen, and then when the screen returns to her, she's already fully formed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. I didn't note that. That's interesting. I was wondering, we were told eventually that all the monsters they had been fighting, especially in the early episodes, are all corrupted gems.
Yeah. Now,
we also learned that gems that get cracked are corrupted.
Yeah.
So we have solid whole gems, which are normal, quote unquote. Then there's corrupted and or cracked gems, which exhibits various mutations. And then there's gem shards.
Yeah.
I've always been of the opinion that when they made the cluster or the gem mutants, they took a gem, they like shattered it into a whole bunch of little pieces,
Uh-huh.
and then they took those pieces and tried to glue them together.
No, I was always under the opinion that they took several different gems,
Yes,
shattered
different
them.
gems.
Okay.
But what I'm getting at here is, if you took a gem and you cracked a little bit of it, and you took the little piece and you put that in the the cluster fund.
Yeah.
Okay. The rest of this gem, could that rest of that gem become one of those monsters?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because if that's the case, you could, shatter a gem and you could break a gem into two pieces, and then do you have two?
Well, the thing is, they have all those monsters bubbled in the temple.
Mm-hmm.
So if they could marry the gems, the gem monsters in the temple with whatever shard from a gem mutant or the cluster or whatever it belongs to, could they, perhaps with Steven's healing powers, fix that gem back to normal?
Possibly. Yeah, I guess the question there is, how much damage does a gem have to sustain before it's irreparable?
Yeah. Because I know it was alluded to the fact that the reason that why they bubble the monsters is because they don't want to break them.
Yeah.
But they can't let them run around, and Rose tried to fix them. And the fact that Steven was trying to reason with the Centibeetle was them trying to see if he could fix them. But we might call back to that at some point.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I can't remember them at the moment, but I remember reviewing the episode lists that got revealed that had a bunch of season 3 episode titles.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's on the wiki.
Okay.
And I could have swore that one of the titles made it sound like they were going to either release some of the captured gem monsters or that they were going to get free somehow or something like that.
Interesting. And that also makes me wonder about bismuth.
Yes.
The quote-unquote bismuth.
The other thing that stood out to me was the strange creature that actually does the lapis poofing.
With multicolored dreadlocks?
Yeah. At first, we kind of thought it was a fusion, but my opinion is still somewhat iffy on that because it's hard to tell if it's a Homeworld gem or if it's a crystal gem, because we're assuming that at this point there were more crystal gems.
Yeah, and Lapis was kind of caught in the middle of it, so in the fog of war, she could have been attacked by anybody.
Yeah, but it's possible that it could have been bismuth, because I paused the scene and the gem that's at the monster's core is somewhat squarish.
Yeah, it's like a little L-shaped type thing.
Yeah.
And
rogue Tetris block.
And bismuth, although bismuth is an elemental metal and not a gemstone per se.
Pearl.
Which is organic. When you create bismuth crystals, they're multicolored.
And square.
And squarish, like ziggurats.
Yeah.
Really pretty. I've actually made them.
Yes, and the important thing to remember is that there is a squarish, multicolored gem bubbled inside Lion. So
this gem, lots of gem monsters are bubbled and in the temple and under the protection of Garnet, effectively. And this one gem is bubbled in Lion, where there's also Greg's like rock and roll T-shirt. The
sword was there.
The sword is there. There's all kinds of memorabilia.
Tape was there.
The what? Yes, the tape from Lion 3. So only things that were very special to Rose are there. So. And I know this is a humongous area of fan theory.
But who
is this person?
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be an episode for that.
And just because of the shape of it, people have been calling it bismuth.
Yeah, it's never actually been titled or referred to, but just go look up bismuth.
Yeah. That, also that gem that hoops Lapis, although the artwork is all stylized just like it was in The Answer, that particular gem was not much bigger than Lapis was. It wasn't that much taller than she was or anything like that. So it wasn't like the Jasper-like warriors that you see in a lot of those flashbacks. So yeah, like not a fusion, a single gem creature of some kind with rainbow-colored dreadlocks. And also in all the stylization, they made a point of showing you all the multicolored dreadlocks.
Yeah. So the color is important.
Yeah.
They made sure that you could see the gem. So that's also important, because the gem could have been on the back, it could have been anywhere. Putting it centrally located on the chest makes it visible. So I don't think it's just a throwaway character.
Yeah, and more headcanon, but the perhaps bismuth is some kind of a fighter who's a little out of control.
Oh yeah.
And maybe at some point Rose had to poof her to save like everybody from
Maybe.
her craziness.
That's possible.
You know, or something like that. And maybe that's what was going on there. You know, obviously a fighting type of gem, kind of buff and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, purely headcanon, nothing official, but, you know, this is what we do. We take, 2 seconds worth of this 11-minute thing and have an 11-minute discussion on it.
Stop. Wait, I think I saw some color in that scene. Can we talk about that for 40 minutes?
Yeah, we'll pull 40 minutes worth of content out of that. So, of course, by the end, Lapis decides to stay. And Peridot sees that she's there. There's that,
I love how nonchalant Peridot addresses Lapis. Like, oh, hey, good to see her, like, up and around.
It's funny because now, like, she's so positive, whereas before she was so angry.
Yeah.
Like, now she's like, hi, what's up? And then, and of course Lapis, who has no idea all this has happened, is like, what are you doing here? And that's going to be great. I'm pretty sure that either Steven's going to explain the basic points in between episodes, or we'll get a really brief. I think he already did try to say, like, she's with us now, or helping us, or something like that. I think
it also breaks my theory that the reason why Lapis looks so out of sorts during that trailer is because of the psychological implications from being fused to Jasper for so long. I think she's just upset because somebody's going to be squatting in her house.
So, yeah, I didn't notice a whole lot of, cultural references or callbacks, although in the Jersey scene, when the shoe gets thrown at Lapis, she makes that same,
the same
fart
farting
sound.
noise, yeah.
And I'm like, that's a reference to Mirror Gem with the whole Mayor Dewey scene. It was so great. And it's funny because, there's those little things that you completely forget about, and then you see something like that, and it's like, okay. Also, when they were about to go to Jersey, she says to him, what about that shadowy place over there? And I'm like, is that a reference to Lion King?
It's possible. And the question is, what does having Lapis on Earth mean for the crystal gems? That's what I'm interested in seeing.
Yeah, because, the crystal gems saved her by defusing her with Jasper. But she's only ever been aggressive toward the crystal gems. And they, to her, they didn't get off on a good foot.
Yeah.
As far as inside the series. And I'm sure they appreciate the fact that she tried to warn them. But Lapis keeps saying, like, she doesn't belong to the crystal gems. She never belonged to the crystal gems. Maybe she's sensitive about that because she was interrogated so hard about it.
And I think much like how Peridot saw the unity and the camaraderie that Earth offers, even when she tried to betray them, they still forgave her. I think that Lapis is going to find that same sort of welcome camaraderie that she would never have gotten on Homeworld. And that's going to be basically the secret sauce that converts Homeworld gems.
Yeah.
And
I still feel that Jasper is not going to be redeemable. I think that's important because I think, even in this type of show where a lot of our villains end up becoming softer and in a lot of cases end up converting, you need villains.
Yeah.
There needs to be a villain. There has to be a conflict of some sort. Of course, we just got past one conflict, but we know that Homeworld, Yellow Diamond is going to come back.
Yeah.
That's going to be a thing. We know the cluster's still in the core. That may still become a thing.
Yeah.
Jasper went somewhere. There's all these things still out there. I just think it's just too neat if they can convert everybody that steps foot on the planet.
Yeah, the question is going to be, in my mind, there are two scenarios. The question is going to be whether they convert Jasper and then it's going to be, the fully formed group of crystal gems against Yellow Diamond and her army, or if they're just not going to be able to convert Jasper, they're going to learn that some people cannot be convinced of Earth's capabilities by taking her down, and that's going to set the stage for Yellow Diamond's arrival.
Right, and as you alluded to during the previous episode, that could be a major turning point for Steven.
Yeah.
If he tries his, kumbaya stuff and it doesn't work on Jasper. I still think there's an interesting angle where Jasper could be fusion drunk.
Yeah.
Or addicted in some way. and is just searching for something to fuse with. Although perhaps Jasper could be so addicted to fusion that she may attempt to fuse with like a gem mutant. Because they did run into gem mutants on the way down before they got anywhere near the cluster.
That's true, yeah. So maybe we'll end up with like a 12-armed, 8-eyed, massive
but
Jasper.
Still mostly Jasper,
Yeah.
except a little bit more insane because of the shards influence.
And then when you poof her, she'd have the Jasper with like the little shards
Like
attached
sticking
to
out little
it.
spiky things. Yeah,
That'd be really cool.
In conclusion, this was our breather after it's the end of an arc. The arc of the cluster is pretty much ended. Now we're going to get a little bit of a breather before we start launching into whatever the next arc's going to be.
Next large arc, yeah.
And we don't even know what that is. I haven't looked at the episode titles, so I don't know. But
something to do when we're done here.
Yes. But it sounds to me like the next episode, Barnmates, is going to just be a little bit more exposition, interpersonal, whatever.
Well, it's definitely going to have the reminder that Homeworld's coming with the attack of the...
Oh, yes. They don't waste a second of those 11 minutes.
Yeah.
So I guess that wraps it up for Same Old World.
Yep. Another episode down and another one to come in 7 days.
Yay.
Yes. Anyway, thank you all for joining us. As always, we are more than happy to hear from you. You can contact us at gemtalkpodcast@gmail.com with your opinions, feelings, comments, fan art, pretty much anything. We'll definitely give it a look / listen.
And, Jerseyans don't hate the earth.
All right. Thank you, everybody, and see you next week.
Good night.